There is a question that has followed humanity for as long as we have been able to think. How do we know what is true? For most of history, the answer was simple. You trusted authority. You trusted tradition. You trusted what the people around you believed. And for a long time, that was enough because the world was small and slow, and the lies that reached you were limited by geography and time. Then came the internet. Then came social media. Then came a world where a false claim can circle the globe before the truth has finished tying its shoes. We now live in what many call a post-truth era, a moment where feelings compete with facts, where algorithms reward outrage over accuracy, and where the loudest voice is often mistaken for the most credible one. And here is the strange thing. A man predicted all of this in 1995. His name was Carl Sagan. He was an astronomer, a writer, a teacher, and one of the most gifted science communicators who ever lived. In the last years of his life, he wrote a book called The Demon-Haunted World, Science as a Candle in the Dark. In it, he looked at the spread of pseudoscience, superstition, and misinformation around him and felt something close to dread, not because people were stupid, but because the tools for thinking clearly had never been widely taught. He called those tools the Baloney detection kit. Today, we are going to open that kit. We are going to look at each tool inside it. And we are going to apply every single one of them to the world we actually live in right now, in 2026, because I believe Sagan's ideas have never been more necessary than they are at this moment. The first thing Sagan asks us to understand is the concept of the burden of proof. This sounds like a legal term, and in some ways it is, but the principle reaches far beyond any courtroom. The burden of proof belongs to the person making the claim. If I tell you there is a teapot orbiting the sun somewhere between Earth and Mars, the burden is on me to prove it. You do not have to prove it does not exist. The absence of disproof is not evidence of truth. Sagan stated this principle in one of the most quoted sentences he ever wrote. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Think about what this actually means. The more unusual a claim is, the more it contradicts what we already know through centuries of careful observation, the higher the bar for evidence should be. This is not closed-mindedness. This is proportionality. If someone tells you they had coffee this morning, you believe them without demanding proof. If someone tells you their coffee gave them the ability to communicate with dead relatives, you should require considerably more than their word. This principle is being violated constantly today. Watch any social media feed for 10 minutes and you will see claims of miraculous cures, hidden technologies, suppressed discoveries, and secret knowledge that overturns everything science thought it knew. Each of these claims arrives with confidence and urgency, and very rarely with evidence proportional to what is being asserted. The burden of proof is your first line of defense. When you hear a claim, ask immediately, who has the burden here, and are they meeting it? The second tool in the kit is the recognition of logical fallacies, and Sagan was particularly alert to one: the argument from authority. The argument from authority says that something is true because an important or credible person says it is. On the surface, this seems reasonable. We cannot be experts in everything, so we rely on experts. But Sagan drew a crucial distinction between trusting the consensus of a scientific field, which is reasonable, and trusting any single authority figure, which is dangerous. History is full of brilliant people who were spectacularly wrong. Experts in one field have no special immunity to error in another. And in the age of social media, expertise has become almost entirely decorative. A person can have millions of followers, a doctoral degree, and a confident tone and still be deeply, systematically wrong. The question is never who is saying it. The question is always what is the evidence, and has it been independently verified? This matters enormously in the world of space science and astronomy, which is the world many of us care about deeply. When a prominent figure announces that a new propulsion system will revolutionize space travel, or that signs of life have been detected on another world, the excitement is understandable. But excitement is not evidence. The announcement requires the same scrutiny as any other claim, regardless of who is making it. The third tool is Occam's razor, named after the medieval philosopher William of Occam. The principle states that among competing hypotheses, the one that requires the fewest assumptions should be preferred. Sagan loved this tool because it cuts through so much of the elaborate architecture that conspiracy theories and pseudoscience tend to build. These explanations typically require dozens of assumptions, each one unsupported, stacked on top of each other until the structure collapses under its own weight. Consider the theory that the trails left behind aircraft in the sky are actually chemical agents being deliberately sprayed on the population. This explanation requires you to believe that thousands of pilots, engineers, government officials, and scientists across dozens of countries have maintained a perfect silence for decades, that no whistleblower has ever produced credible documentation, and that the chemicals being sprayed have somehow avoided detection by independent atmospheric scientists around the world. The alternative explanation is that jet exhaust contains water vapor, and at high altitudes that vapor condenses into ice crystals and becomes visible. This explanation requires no conspiracy, no silence, no suppression. It requires only basic atmospheric chemistry. Occam's razor does not prove the simpler explanation is true. It tells you which hypothesis to examine first, and it tells you that the burden on the more complicated explanation is proportionally higher. The fourth tool involves falsifiability, a concept developed by the philosopher Karl Popper that Sagan embraced completely. A claim is scientific if and only if there is some observation or experiment that could, in principle, prove it wrong. This is what separates science from faith and from pseudoscience. A genuine scientific hypothesis sticks its neck out. It says if this is true, then we should observe this. And if we do not observe it, then we should revise or abandon the hypothesis. Pseudoscience does the opposite. It makes itself immune to disproof. If the prediction fails, there is always an explanation for why the failure does not count. The horoscope was misread. The energy was blocked. The test conditions were not right. The scientists are biased. When you encounter a claim that can explain any outcome, any evidence, any result, regardless of what actually happens, you are not dealing with science. You are dealing with a belief system that has been designed to be unfalsifiable, which means it can never be tested, which means it can never be trusted. The fifth tool is one of the most important for navigating a world drowning in data, the distinction between correlation and causation. Two things happening at the same time, or in sequence, does not mean one caused the other. This error has a Latin name, post hoc ergo propter hoc, which means after this, therefore because of this. You took a new supplement. Then your energy improved. The supplement caused the improvement, maybe. Or maybe you also started sleeping better that week, or the season changed. Or the placebo effect, which is real and powerful, did exactly what it always does. This fallacy fuels enormous amounts of medical misinformation. It is also responsible for some of the most persistent and harmful conspiracy theories in the world, including many involving vaccines, in which a diagnosis that happened to follow vaccination is taken as proof that the vaccination caused the diagnosis, without any attempt to determine whether children who were not vaccinated received the same diagnosis at the same rate. The proper question is never whether two things happen together. The proper question is whether the pattern holds across large populations, whether it survives controlled experiments, and whether there is a plausible mechanism connecting the two. Now we arrive at what I believe is the most important distinction in the entire kit, and the one that is most frequently misunderstood. Skepticism is not the same as denialism. Sagan was ferocious about this. Being skeptical does not mean refusing to believe anything. It does not mean assuming that science is always wrong or that experts are always lying. It means demanding evidence before belief and proportioning your confidence to the strength of that evidence. The denialist and the skeptic can look identical from the outside. Both reject a mainstream claim, but their internal reasoning is completely different. The skeptic says, Show me the evidence and I will follow wherever it leads, even if it overturns everything I thought I knew. The denialist says, I have already decided what is true and I will reject any evidence that contradicts it. True skepticism is not a wall. It is a door with a lock that opens with the right key. The key is evidence. This distinction matters especially for those of us who love space science, because our field has genuine open questions. We do not know whether life exists elsewhere in the universe. We do not know the nature of dark matter or dark energy. There are anomalies in the data that have not been fully explained. A true skeptic holds these questions open, examines new evidence carefully, and resists both the temptation to believe prematurely and the temptation to dismiss without investigation. Before I close, I want to say something that I think Sagan would have wanted said. He was wrong about things. He was skeptical to the point of dismissiveness about certain anomalous findings that later deserved more serious attention. He was sometimes overconfident in his own conclusions. He was human, which means he was fallible, which means the tools he gave us should be applied to his own work as much as to anything else. This is not a criticism of Sagan. It is the highest compliment I can pay him. He built a system that is honest enough to audit itself. The Baloney detection kit is not a weapon to wield against people you already disagree with. It is a discipline to apply to everything, including your own beliefs, including the things you most want to be true. In the final pages of The Demon-Haunted World, Sagan wrote about what worried him most. It was not any specific pseudoscience or conspiracy. It was the erosion of the habits of mind that allow a society to correct itself. He wrote about a world where people have lost the ability to distinguish what feels true from what is true. A world where the tools of critical thinking have become so unfamiliar that they seem elitist, or threatening, or simply irrelevant. He was describing 2026 with uncomfortable precision. Science is not a collection of facts. It is a method for reducing the error rate of human belief over time. It is the best tool we have ever developed for telling the difference between what we wish were true and what actually is. It does not offer certainty. It offers something better, a reliable way to become less wrong. That is Sagan's candle in the dark, not a floodlight, not a guarantee, just a small, careful flame that, if we protect it, keeps us from walking off the edge. The darkness is real, but so is the candle.